Hey guys, tonight we are traveling deep into the past, to the sun-baked plains between two great rivers, to one of the cradles of human civilization itself. We're going to ancient Mesopotamia, to the powerful and magnificent Sumerian city-state of Ur. We're about to experience the splendor of a royal court, the depth of a people's faith, and the strange, solemn, and frankly, terrifying rituals they performed when their great rulers died. This is a story about loyalty, the afterlife, and the immense sacrifices that were made in the service of a king. Now for our little reality check. Life in ancient Mesopotamia was tough, and the afterlife didn't sound much better. Their version of the great beyond was a gloomy, subterranean realm called Kur, a land of no return. It was a dark, dusty cave where the spirits of the dead wandered aimlessly, eating clay and drinking dirty water for eternity. There was no paradise, no heavenly reward. Everyone, from the most powerful king to the humblest farmer, ended up in the same bleak, dusty place. Understandably, people were not in a huge hurry to get there. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps build these great ziggurats of historical content. And, as always, I love seeing where in the world you're all joining from. So please post your city and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your world is built of sun-baked mud brick and the immense power of the gods. You live in the great city of Ur, a jewel on the banks of the Euphrates River. In the land of Sumer, the air you breathe is hot and dry, thick with the dust of the surrounding plain, the smell of livestock from the nearby fields, and the faint, sharp scent of bitumen used to seal the great city walls, towering over everything. A man-made mountain connecting the earth to the heavens is the Great Ziggurat, the temple of the city's patron and true ruler, the moon god Nana. You are a man of privilege and skill. You are a court musician, a singer of tales, and a player of the lyre in the service of the king of Ur himself. You live within the sprawling, labyrinthine walls of the royal palace, a world of whitewashed courtyards, great halls with painted pillars, and shaded gardens. It is a life of comfort and honor, a world away from the hard toil of the farmers in the fields or the laborers who dredge the canals. Your duties are pleasant ones. You play your lyre during the king's great banquets. Your music a soothing backdrop to the feasting and conversation. You sing the great epics of the hero Gilgamesh and his quest for immortality, of the goddess Inanna and her descent into the underworld. Your skill is a valued commodity, a source of beauty and entertainment for the most powerful people in the world. Your instrument is a work of art in itself. It is a magnificent bull-headed lyre, its wooden frame decorated with shell and lapis lazuli, and its front adorned with a sculpted head of a bull, wrought from pure gold, its bearded face staring out with a look of serene, divine power. The music you coax from its gut strings is the soundtrack to life in the palace. The court is a complex and dazzling society. You are surrounded by the elite of the kingdom, the stoic royal guards, their copper helmets gleaming, their spears held at perfect attention. The scribes, their styluses flying across wet clay tablets as they record the temple's inventory of sheep or the latest royal decree. The powerful, shaven-headed priests of the ziggurat, who can read the will of the gods in the entrails of a sacrificed goat, and the queen's handmaidens, elegant women in fine linen robes, their elaborate headdresses of golden leaves and carnelian beads tinkling as they walk. You move among these people as an equal, a respected member of the king's household. You attend the great feasts held in the main hall of the palace. You see the tables laden with roasted mutton and gazelle, with fresh fish from the river, with piles of dates and figs. The drink that flows most freely is beer. It is the Sumerian staple, A thick, nutritious brew, so full of barley mash that it must be drunk through long. Elegant straws of copper or silver to bypass the solids. It was nutritious, alcoholic, and you didn't have to chew. A perfect food. Life is good. The city is prosperous. The storehouses are full. The king, though growing older, is a strong and pious ruler. He is not seen as a living god in the way the kings of Egypt are. Rather, he is the chief steward, the high priest, the chosen shepherd of the people on behalf of the city's true king. The moon god Nana. The health and favor of your king are a direct reflection of the health and favor of the city itself. His well-being is your well-being, but even in this world of earthly splendor, the gods are an ever-present and demanding reality. Their will is sought in every endeavor, before a military campaign is launched or a new temple built. The priest must perform divination, examining the patterns of oil poured on water or reading the terrifying omens in the shape of a sheep's liver. The world is governed by these unseen forces, and the balance between the human world and the divine is a delicate and fragile thing. Even the songs you sing are a reminder of the grim reality that awaits all mortals. You sing of Gilgamesh, the great king who, stricken by the death of his friend Enkidu, traveled to the ends of the earth seeking eternal life, only to be told that it is a gift the gods kept for themselves. You sing of the underworld, Kur, the land of no return, a place of darkness and dust where the dead are clothed like birds, in a garment of feathers, and where they see no light. These are just stories, epic tales to entertain the court. They feel distant, mythological. Tonight, you are performing at a great banquet. The hall is filled with the light of 100 sesame oil lamps. The king and queen are seated on their high-backed, carved thrones, their robes a cascade of color, their golden ornaments glittering. The air is thick with the scent of roasting meat, sweet dates, and the perfumes of the courtiers. Your job is to play beautiful music for the king. It's a great gig, with good food and lots of respect. The only downside is that the company has a very, very strict policy on employee retention, which you'll learn about later. You are in the middle of a hymn to the goddess Inanna, your fingers plucking a gentle, rippling melody from your lyre, your voice rising in praise. The court is a perfect tableau of wealth, power, and stability. You feel secure, an honored and essential part of this magnificent world. It is in that moment of perfect peace that you hear it, a small sound, almost lost beneath the notes of your music. It is a cough. It comes from the royal throne. It is a small, dry, rattling sound from deep within the king's chest. He covers his mouth with his hand, his eyes momentarily clouding with pain. The queen turns to him with a look of concern. A few of the highest-ranking officials, the vizier and the cupbearer, exchange a quick, worried glance. A moment later, the king smiles, waves a hand as if to dismiss the interruption, and the banquet continues. But a small, cold seed of anxiety has been planted in the warm, festive atmosphere. The king, the divine shepherd of his people, the center of your world, is mortal, and his mortality has just made itself known. The perfect moment of the royal banquet, with its music and laughter, quickly fades into a distant memory, a golden dream from another lifetime. The king's small, dry cough, which was at first dismissed as a passing irritation, does not go away. It deepens, settling into his chest. A week after the feast, he is too weak to preside over the morning court. 2 weeks after, he cannot leave his bedchamber. The music in the palace ceases. The feasting stops. A heavy, anxious silence descends upon the royal compound, a silence that soon spreads to the entire city of Ur. Your role as a court musician is transformed. You no longer play joyous songs of celebration. Now, You are summoned to sit for hours in the antechamber, outside the king's private rooms. Your great bull-headed lyre resting on your lap. You are instructed to play soft, soothing melodies, quiet hymns to the god Nana and his wife, the goddess Ningal. Your music is no longer entertainment. It is part of a great, desperate ritual. A constant prayer of sound meant to calm the king's spirit and please the gods who hold his life in their hands. Through the curtained doorway, you catch glimpses of the frantic efforts to save him. An entire wing of the palace has been turned into a medical and spiritual battleground. 2 different kinds of healers are summoned. 4 in your world. An illness is never just an illness. First comes the ASU, the physician. He is a practical man, a master of herbs and observation. You see him mixing potions of willow bark to combat the king's fever, and a poultice of licorice root and honey to soothe his rattling cough. He prescribes a diet of light broths and sweet fruits. His is the medicine of the physical world, a battle fought against the symptoms of the disease. But the king's illness is too great to be a simple imbalance of the body. It must have a supernatural cause, and so the second, and more powerful. Healer is summoned the Ashipu. He is the exorcist, the magician, a priest whose specialty is confronting the invisible forces that plague mankind. He sees the king's fever not as a result of a physical ailment, but as the fiery touch of a demon. He believes the king's life is being drained by a vengeful ghost, or that the king has committed some unknown sin that has angered the gods. The Ashipu's work is not with herbs, but with omens and incantations. To fight the enemy, he must first identify it, and for this, he turns to the most powerful diagnostic tool known to your civilization, hepatoscopy, the reading of a sacrificed sheep's liver. A pure, unblemished sheep is brought into a consecrated courtyard. You watch from a distance as the Ashipu and his assistants perform the sacrifice. Their movements precise and ritualistic. They lay the animal's liver upon a silver tray. The king has 2 doctors. One gives him herbal tea and tells him to get some rest. The other is sacrificing a sheep to read its liver for signs of demonic influence. It's a very holistic approach to healthcare. The Ashipu then begins his terrible and intricate work. He stares intently at the bloody organ, which he believes is a microcosm of the universe, a clay tablet written by the gods. He traces the lines and grooves on its surface with a small bronze stylus. The path is obscured, you hear him mutter to his assistants. The palace gate is malformed. There is a shadow on the river. Each part of the liver has a name and a meaning, and from their appearance, the Ashipu constructs his diagnosis. After a long, intense examination, he declares his findings. The king is being afflicted by the hand of the demon Lamashtu, the terrible lion-headed goddess who preys on the great and powerful. He also declares that there is a sign of divine anger, meaning the king has committed some unknown transgression against the moon god, Nana. The illness, therefore, has 2 causes and requires 2 remedies. Now begins the magical counterattack. The ASU continues to administer his potions, but the Ashipu's work takes precedence. The air in the palace becomes thick with the smoke of purifying incense and the constant, droning chant of the exorcist's incantations. He recites the long, ancient spells designed to drive out the demon Lamashtu, his voice rising and falling in the guttural syllables of the Sumerian tongue. He places protective amulets of lapis lazuli and carnelian around the king's bed. He then performs a powerful Namburbi ritual, a rite of substitution. He creates a small figurine of the king from bread dough. He then performs a long ceremony over the bedridden monarch, chanting spells designed to transfer the sickness, the fever, the demonic influence, from the king's body into the doughy effigy. When the transference is complete, he takes the figurine, which is now believed to contain the entire illness, and casts it into the Euphrates River, to be carried away by the current and dissolved into nothingness. The latest plan is to transfer the king's sickness into a small dough doll, and then throw the doll in the river. You can't help but feel a little bad for the doll. And you make a mental note not to go swimming downstream. Simultaneously, priests of the great ziggurat begin a new, frantic series of sacrifices to appease the city's angry patron god, Nana. The smoke from their altar fires rises into the sky day and night. You sit in the antechamber, playing your quiet, mournful music on the lyre. A human soundtrack to this immense spiritual struggle. You are a first-hand witness to a core debate that will one day occupy the minds of historians. Is the work of the ASU and the Ashipu a conflict between science and magic? From your perspective, you see no conflict at all. They are two parts of a whole. The ASU is treating the wound. The Ashipu is fighting the venom that caused it. In a world where the gods and demons are as real as the sun and the moon, treating one without the other would be unthinkable folly. But despite all the efforts, the herbal potions, the liver readings, the powerful incantations, the substitute dolls, the endless sacrifices, the king does not recover. He grows weaker. His breathing becomes shallow. The great man who was the center of your universe, the embodiment of the city's strength, is fading away. The atmosphere in the palace becomes thick with political tension, as well as spiritual dread. The high officials of the court move in hushed, anxious groups. Their whispers about who will succeed the king if he should die. The queen, a formidable woman in her own right, rarely leaves her husband's side. She directs the physicians and exorcists, her face a mask of iron-willed grief. Her presence the only source of order in the crumbling court. One evening, the Ashipu performs a final. Great divination, not with a sheep's liver, but with oil and water. He takes a great bronze bowl of pure water, and after a long prayer, he pours a single drop of fine sesame oil onto the surface. The entire court is gathered, watching in breathless silence. The shape the oil takes as it spreads will be the final verdict of the gods. The oil spreads. It does not form a cohesive, round shape, a sign of unity and life. Instead, it splits apart, forming two distinct, separate globules. The Ashipu stares into the bowl for a long time. Then he looks up, his face ashen, and you know what his answer is before he even speaks. The spirits have divided, he announces, his voice heavy with finality. The soul is preparing to separate from the body. The will of the great gods is clear. The king's time in this land is at an end. A great collective wail of grief goes up from the assembled courtiers. The battle is lost. The Ashipu looks at the queen and the vizier. He cannot be saved, he says. You must now begin the preparations. The king must be made ready for his descent into Kur. The great death is at hand. The vigil outside the king's chamber is a heavy, timeless thing. The palace is wrapped in a profound silence, a stark contrast to the usual bustle of courtiers and servants. The only sounds are the soft whisper of your lyre strings as you play a mournful hymn, the low chanting of the priests, and the shallow, rattling breaths of the dying king from behind the curtained doorway. The end, when it comes, is not a dramatic cry, but a quiet cessation. A priest emerges from the chamber, his face a mask of solemnity. He meets the queen's gaze and gives a single, slow shake of his head. A moment later, the queen herself steps out. She is no longer a wife. She is a widow, a queen regent. Her face is pale but composed, her back straight as a spear shaft. The great shepherd has left his flock, she announces, her voice clear and steady, though laden with an immense, controlled grief. The king of Ur has begun his journey. Her words break the spell of quiet anticipation. A great, orchestrated wail of sorrow erupts from the assembled court. This is not the chaotic weeping of a common family. This is a state funeral, and the grief is a performance, a ritual. The professional mourning women begin their high-pitched, piercing cries. The great lords and officials of the court tear the upper edges of their robes and rub dust and ashes on their heads and faces. A public display of their devastation. Your own role shifts instantly. The soothing hymns are finished. Now you must play the great laments. The Urshema hymns for the death of a king. You change the tuning of your lyre, and a deep, sorrowful, resonant music fills the hall. A sound of profound loss and cosmic despair. In the midst of this ritualized grief, a senior priest from the temple of Nana, a man named Enlil Bani, comes to stand beside you. He is old, and he has seen many kings and commoners die. He sees the genuine fear and confusion in your young face. You are afraid, he says. His voice a quiet rumble beneath the wailing. You fear for the king's spirit. You are right to do so. The road he now walks is a dark one, under the cover of the loud mourning. He begins to explain to you the nature of the journey the king has just undertaken. He tells you of the Mesopotamian afterlife, and his words paint a picture of such bleakness and gloom that it makes your heart grow cold. Do not think of the glorious field of reeds of the Egyptians. He says, our world is different, all souls. The kings and the bakers, the priests and the soldiers, all travel to the same destination. We call it Kur, the land of no return. He describes Kur. It is not a place of judgment. There is no weighing of the heart, no paradise for the virtuous, no fiery pit for the wicked. It is simply a great dark, dusty cavern deep beneath the earth, a shadow world ruled by the terrifying goddess Ereshkigal and her consort, the death god Nergal. You learn that the afterlife is a dark cave where you eat dirt and everyone is perpetually thirsty. You reflect. The sales pitch for eternal salvation really needs some work. The journey to Kur, the priest explains, is a perilous one. The newly departed spirit, the Atemu, must travel west, toward the setting sun. It must cross the Huber, the great river of the underworld, on a magical ferry steered by a grim ferryman. After the river, it must pass through 7 great gates, each one guarded by a demon gatekeeper. This is based on the great story of our goddess Inanna, the priest says, who once descended to Kur herself, at each of the 7 gates. She was forced to remove an item of her royal regalia. At the first, her crown. At the second, her golden necklaces. At the 7th, her very robes. So too for the soul of our king. He will arrive in the land of the dead stripped of all his worldly glory, as naked and powerless as the lowest beggar. To get into the underworld, you have to pass through 7 gates, and at each one, a demon takes a piece of your clothing. You arrive naked, which sounds cold, and also deeply embarrassing. And what of life in Kur itself? Enlil Bani's description is even more chilling. In the house of dust, where they entered, he quotes from an ancient poem. They are clothed like birds, with a garment of feathers. They see no light, they sit in darkness. Dust is their sustenance and clay their food. The afterlife is an eternity of thirst, of gloom, of eating dirt. A miserable, shadowy echo of life. A profound and terrible understanding dawns on you. All the rituals you are about to perform, all the treasures that will be gathered, all the immense effort and wealth that will be expended on this funeral, none of it is to get the king into a better afterlife. There is no better afterlife. Then why won't you ask the priest, your voice a whisper? Why the great tomb, why the treasures? Because of the Atemu. He replies, the ghost. A spirit in the underworld retains its memories and its status, and its needs. A forgotten spirit is a thirsty spirit. A thirsty spirit is an angry spirit. And the angry spirit of a great king is the most dangerous thing in all the world. He explains that if the dead are not properly buried and cared for, their ghosts can become malevolent. They can find their way back across the river, back through the 7 gates, to haunt the world of the living. They can bring sickness, blight the crops, cause cattle to die, they are a constant, invisible threat. The tomb, the priest says, is not a memorial, it is his eternal house. The treasures are not a tribute, they are his eternal property. The food and drink we will offer are not symbolic. We will pour real beer and water through a pipe into his grave so that his thirsty spirit may drink. We do this not just out of love and respect for him, but out of a deep and abiding fear for ourselves. We must make his existence in that dusty land as comfortable as possible, so that he remains there, content and never ever thinks to return. The only thing that makes the miserable afterlife slightly less miserable is if your living relatives remember to pour beer down your grave every once in a while. It's a strong incentive to have a lot of children, and to be nice to them. You now see the truth with a terrible clarity. The magnificent funeral to come is not a celebration of the king's life. It is a desperate, pragmatic, and incredibly expensive bribe. It is a containment strategy. You are not preparing a god for his journey to paradise. You are furnishing a prison to appease a powerful and potentially dangerous ghost. Your lyre feels heavy in your lap. The laments you're playing are not just songs of grief for a beloved, departed king. They are also songs of fear, a plea to his ghost to be at peace, to accept his gloomy fate, and to leave the world of the living alone. The king is dead. His soul is now a frightened refugee on a dark road to a miserable eternity. And your job, you now understand, is to be his eternal quartermaster, his supplier, his caretaker, all to ensure that his powerful, unhappy spirit stays safely locked away in the land of no return. You look toward the royal bedchamber, where other priests are now beginning the solemn, sacred work of preparing the king's physical body for this strange and terrible journey. The great ritual wailing for the departed king continues for a full day, a public performance of the city's grief. But behind the closed doors of the palace, in a purified chamber set aside for the task, the quiet, solemn, and intricate work of preparing the royal corpse begins. As a high-ranking court musician, it is your honor and your duty to be present, to provide a constant, soft, and mournful music on your lyre to soothe the spirits and accompany the sacred rites. You sit in the corner of the chamber, your fingers plucking a sad, repetitive melody. Before you, the body of the king, stripped of its royal robes, lies upon a low stone slab. The priests of the temple of Nana, their heads shaven and their bodies clad in simple linen kilts, begin their work. It is a process of immense reverence and meticulous detail. First, they wash the king's body, not with simple river water, but with water that has been purified with salt and blessed with incantations. They wash his hair, his limbs, his face, cleansing the vessel of any lingering impurities of the living world. Then, they anoint him. They rub fragrant oils into his skin, cedar oil from the great mountains to the north, juniper oil, myrrh from the distant southern lands. The air in the room becomes thick with the rich, sacred scents, a perfume designed to please the gods and ward off the stench of decay. Next comes the dressing of the king for his final journey. This is not a simple shroud. It is a layering of immense wealth and symbolism. The attendants bring forth garments of the finest, most gossamer thin linen, bleached white as the moon. They dress the king in a dozen layers. Then comes the color, a robe of deep crimson wool, dyed at great expense, is placed over the white linen, and then begins the adornment. It is a display of wealth so staggering it makes your head spin. You watch as they transform the pale, lifeless body into a glittering idol, a statue of gold and jewels. They begin with his head. A delicate cap of woven gold wire is placed on his hair. From it hang golden ribbons and strings of lapis lazuli and carnelian beads. Great! Crescent-shaped earrings of hammered gold are fixed to his ears. Then come the necklaces. It is not one or two. It is a cascade of gold and color. A treasure so heavy it is a wonder a living man could have worn it. There are dog collar-style necklaces of alternating gold and lapis triangles. There are long, delicate chains from which hang golden pendants shaped like leaves and flowers. There are massive strings of thousands of beads of precious stones. The king is being buried with more gold necklaces than a dozen queens could wear at once. Apparently, the dress code in the underworld is aggressively opulent. They place rings on every one of his fingers. Great bands of gold with inscribed seals and inlaid gems. They slide golden bracelets up his arms, around his waist. They fasten a wide belt of leather decorated with gold roundels into this belt. They tuck his ceremonial dagger. It is the most beautiful weapon you have ever seen. Its hilt is a single piece of flawless lapis lazuli, decorated with gold studs. Its blade is not bronze, the metal of common warfare. It is made of pure, soft gold. It is a weapon that could not cut bread. Its only purpose is to announce, to any spirit who might see it in the underworld, that its owner was a man of immense and untouchable power. It's too soft to be a useful weapon. Its only purpose is to let the dirt-eating ghosts of the underworld know that you were very, very important. The most magnificent garment is saved for last. It is a great ceremonial cape, made not of cloth, but of thousands upon thousands of tiny beads of lapis, carnelian, and gold, all meticulously sewn onto a leather backing to create an intricate mosaic pattern. It is so heavy it takes 4 men to lift it and drape it over the king's shoulders. The effect is breathtaking. The king's body is now a shimmering river of blue, red, and gold. Finally, they place his personal cylinder seal around his neck on a golden chain. It is a small, perfect cylinder of deep blue lapis lazuli, intricately carved with the scene of the king himself, standing before the great moon god Nana. This small object is the ultimate symbol of his identity, his authority, his very essence. It is his signature for eternity, as you sit there, playing your lyre. You are struck by the origins of all this wealth. You are a man of the court. You know the ways of commerce. The brilliant blue lapis lazuli, you know, comes from a single source, the treacherous mountains of distant Afghanistan, brought here by 1,000 miles of dangerous trade. The red carnelian is from the river valleys of India. The gold is from the south, from the lands beyond Egypt. The king's corpse has become a map of the world, a testament to the immense reach and power of your city's trade networks. This is a question future historians will debate the source of Ur's great wealth. You see the answer draped on your dead king. It was born of a mastery of the entire known world. When the body is fully adorned, the final wrapping begins. The priests take long strips of fine linen and begin to wrap the body, securing the jewels and the heavy cape in place. Layer after layer is applied, until the glittering, colorful form is transformed into a large, still, white bundle. This bundle is then carefully lifted and rolled into a thick reed mat, which is then tied securely with ropes. The king is ready. The entire process has taken a full day. It was performed with a hushed, solemn reverence. The priest's quiet chants, the soft clinking of the gold, and the mournful notes from your lyre were the only sounds. You look at the simple, cylindrical shape of the reed mat, and it is almost impossible to believe the spectacular treasure it contains. You are overwhelmed by a profound sense of irony. All this work, all this incredible wealth, all this beauty created by the finest craftsmen in the world, it is all being prepared for a journey to a place of eternal dust and darkness. It is a magnificent suitcase, packed with the treasures of an empire. For a final, miserable trip to a dusty cave, it is not a celebration. It is a desperate and poignant attempt to provide a few meager comforts, a few symbols of status, for a spirit who is about to lose everything, forever. The priests give a final chant of purification over the wrapped body. The attendants prepare to move it. The doors of the chamber are opened, and the sound of the public wailing outside rushes in. The time for the great funeral procession has arrived. The king must now be carried from his earthly palace to the entrance of his new, eternal one, the great cypress coffin. holding the silent, jeweled body of the king, is brought forth from the palace's inner chambers into the brilliant, unforgiving sunlight of the main courtyard, the assembled court. Hundreds of the most powerful and important people in the kingdom falls to a hushed, reverent silence, broken only by the ritualized wailing of the mourning women. The great procession is about to begin. It is a spectacle of immense and solemn grandeur. A final, public display of the king's power and the city's grief. You and the other court musicians take your place near the front, behind a phalanx of priests who swing censers, trailing thick, sweet clouds of incense to purify the path. You cradle your great bull-headed lyre, your fingers resting lightly on its strings, ready to begin the dirge. Behind you, the procession assembles in a strict, hierarchical order. There are teams of strong servants, their muscles straining as they carry the vast wealth of the king's grave goods. You see them carrying ornately carved wooden chests, beautiful chairs inlaid with shell and lapis lazuli, and tables laden with vessels of gold, silver, and alabaster. The amount of treasure being carried to the tomb is staggering. There are enough golden cups to serve drinks to the entire army of the underworld, which is good, because you've heard it's a very thirsty place. You see the king's royal war chariot, its wooden wheels heavy and solid, its frame decorated with golden lion heads. It is pulled by two fine Sumerian onagers, their harnesses jingling softly. Then comes the centerpiece, the king's body, shrouded in its reed mat, resting upon a great wooden sledge that will serve as his hearse. It is pulled by a team of perfectly matched, placid oxen. Immediately behind the hearse walk the royal family. The queen is at their head, her face veiled, her posture radiating a powerful, controlled grief. Behind them, the rest of the royal court falls into line: the vizier, the high-ranking priests, the royal guards in their gleaming copper helmets, their spears held at a respectful downward angle. The queen's handmaidens are there, a silent, graceful group of women in fine robes, the royal cupbearer, and you, the court musician. You look at the faces of your colleagues, the people you have shared your life with within the palace walls. There is a strange, shared solemnity in their eyes, a sense of a great and final duty you are all about to perform together. At a signal from the high priest, the procession lurches into motion. The drummers begin a slow, deep, heartbeat-like rhythm. The pipe players begin a high, reedy, mournful tune, and you begin to play the great lament for a fallen king, your fingers plucking the sad, ancient melody from the strings of your lyre. The procession moves out of the palace gates and into the main thoroughfares of the city of Ur. The streets, normally bustling with commerce, are silent and packed with the city's populace. The people of Ur line the path, their faces a sea of genuine grief and fear. As the royal hearse passes, they weep. They throw handfuls of dust upon their heads, a sign of their sorrow. The king was their connection to the gods, the shepherd of their people. With his death, the world has become a more dangerous and uncertain place. The entire city is weeping. The professional mourners are wailing. You are playing the saddest song you know. It is the most miserable, most magnificent parade you have ever been a part of. The procession moves with a slow, deliberate pace. It is a great river of sorrow flowing through the heart of the city. Future historians and archaeologists, studying the evidence of this day, will debate the purpose of such a grand display. Was it a purely religious rite for the king's soul? Or was it also a potent political statement? You, walking in the midst of it, know that it is both. The grief is real, but the breathtaking display of wealth being carried to the tomb, the sheer number of high-ranking courtiers in the procession, it is all a clear and powerful message to the people of Ur, and to any watching rivals, that, even in death, the dynasty's power is absolute and unbroken. The journey takes hours, You move through the city's great gates and out onto the dusty plain that separates the world of the living from the designated city of the dead. The royal cemetery, the sun beats down on your head, and the dust kicked up by 1,000 shuffling feet coats your robes and fills your lungs. You continue to play, your fingers moving automatically, the mournful music your only shield against the oppressive heat and the even more oppressive grief. Finally, you arrive. You see the royal burial ground before you, and you see the king's tomb. It is not a grand, soaring pyramid like the ones you hear stories of in the distant land of Egypt. It is something far more primal, more chthonic. It is a great, gaping pit dug deep into the earth, a massive rectangular wound in the world. A long, wide ramp leads down into its depths. At the bottom of the pit, you can see the stone walls of a small, house-like structure, the burial chamber itself. The procession comes to a halt at the edge of this great death pit. The public portion of the funeral is over. The crowd of common citizens remains at a distance, watching in hushed silence. The final, secret rites are about to begin. The mood of the procession shifts. The performative grief gives way to a tense, sacred, and deeply strange anticipation. The king's body is carefully carried down the long, earthen ramp and placed inside the stone burial chamber at the bottom of the pit. The treasures follow. The servants carry the chests, the furniture, the golden vessels, and arrange them around the king's body within the chamber, furnishing his eternal house. Your lyre, the magnificent golden bull-headed instrument you have played your entire adult life, is taken from you by a priest. You watch as it, too, is carried down the ramp to be placed beside your master, so you may play for him in the underworld. When the last of the treasure has been placed, the priests emerge from the chamber, and the stonemasons move in, sealing the doorway with bricks and mortar. The king is now alone in his eternal house, but the great pit is not yet empty. A strange and solemn assembly is taking place at the bottom. The royal war chariot is led down the ramp, its onagers and its driver taking their places near the entrance. The royal guards, their copper helmets gleaming in the sun, march down and take up their positions, forming a silent, eternal honor guard. Then the queen's handmaidens, their faces calm and serene, descend the ramp and arrange themselves inside the pit. The cupbearer, the chamberlains, the other high officials of the court, they all follow, each taking a designated place. And then a priest turns to you and to the other musicians. He gestures towards the ramp. It is your turn. It is your honor. You are to join your king, your master, in his eternal home. A priest, his face an impassive mask, gestures for you and the other musicians to descend the ramp. The moment you have known was coming, but have not allowed yourself to truly comprehend, is here. There is no panic, no screaming, no attempt to flee. To do so would be unthinkable. A betrayal of your king, your city, your gods, and your entire life's purpose. You feel a strange, cold calm settle over you. This is the greatest and final honor. You are the king's musician, and your king has need of you in his new, dark kingdom. You walk down the long, earthen ramp into the great death pit. The air at the bottom is cool and still, the sounds of the world above muffled and distant. You are now in a space between worlds. The scene before you is one of a surreal and terrible order. The king's sealed stone tomb chamber stands at one end of the pit like a small house. Arranged around it, in perfect, hierarchical rows, is his entire court. You see the royal guards standing at attention in their copper helmets, their spears held ready, forming a silent, eternal defensive line. You see the king's charioteer standing proudly by his chariot, the oxen that pulled it already slaughtered and laid neatly beside it. And you see the queen's handmaidens. They are seated in neat rows on low wooden stools, their hands folded in their laps. They have adjusted their intricate headdresses of golden leaves and carnelian beads. ensuring they look perfect for their arrival in the underworld. They look as though they are simply waiting for the queen to call for them. You look at the faces of your comrades in this strange, final duty. You see the royal cupbearer, a man you have shared wine with 100 times, standing calmly by a table laden with golden cups. You see your fellow musicians, each one moving to their designated spot, cradling their lyres and pipes. There is fear in their eyes. Yes, but it is buried deep beneath a profound sense of duty and a calm, almost trance-like resignation. Everyone is being so professional about it. It's the most polite, well-organized mass suicide you've ever attended. You are witnessing the ultimate expression of your culture's worldview. The afterlife in Kor is a direct continuation of this one. And a king must have his court. He needs his guards to protect him from the demons of the underworld. He needs his servants to bring him food and drink. He needs his musicians to soothe his soul in the eternal gloom. You are not dying. You are being transferred to a new, eternal post. You've been chosen to accompany the king into the afterlife. It's the highest honor a court musician can receive. The promotion comes with eternal job security, though the working conditions are said to be a bit dreary, as you take your designated place among the other lyre players. You understand the complex web of honor and obligation that has led you to this moment. Future historians and archaeologists will fiercely debate the nature of this act. Was it truly voluntary, an ecstatic act of religious devotion, or was it coerced, a command that could not be refused? You know the truth is somewhere in between. No one held a spear to your back to force you down this ramp, but the immense weight of your culture, your faith, your duty to your king, and the absolute certainty that to refuse would be a dishonor worse than death that is a force more powerful than any spear? The honor is real. You feel it in your bones. But the choice, you understand, was made for you the day you were born into this world. The priests move among the assembled retinue, making final adjustments. They straighten a soldier's helmet. They smooth the folds of a handmaiden's robe. Everything must be perfect. This is a tableau, a final, perfect image of the royal court that will be sealed in time for all eternity. The sun is now touching the western horizon, and the sky above the rim of the pit is turning a deep, bruised purple. The high priest gives a signal. It is time for the final performance. You and the other musicians raise your instruments. A drummer begins a slow, solemn beat. A piper plays a high, haunting melody. And you place your fingers on the strings of the lyre you know so well, not your great golden lyre, which is already sealed in the tomb with the king, but a simpler court lyre, and you begin to play. The music rises from the bottom of the pit, a sound of heartbreaking and transcendent beauty. It is a lament, but it is also a hymn of praise, a final salute to the king you have served your entire life. You close your eyes and play. The music, a final act of creation in a place dedicated to death. You want to make sure the last thing the king hears for all eternity isn't a wrong note. As you're beautiful. Sad music fills the air. You see the priests begin to move through the assembled court. They carry small, elegant clay cups, the kind used for fine wine at a royal feast. They are moving from person to person, from guard to handmaiden to official to musician. They are serving the final royal feast, the Last Supper, the soporific, poisoned drink that will gently send the entire court to sleep, a sleep from which they will never wake in this world. You continue to play, your fingers moving surely over the strings, even as a priest approaches you, a small clay cup in his outstretched hand. The music does not falter. This is your duty. This is your honor. This is the end. The priest approaches you, his face a solemn blank. In his hands, he holds a small, simple clay cup. He offers it to you. You are still playing your lyre. The final notes of the king's lament hanging in the twilight air. You let the music die. A profound silence falls over the great pit. A silence broken only by the wind sighing over the rim far above. You look at the cup. The liquid inside is dark, the color of beer, but you know it is something more. This is the final feast, the king's last gift to his loyal court. There is no hesitation. You have been preparing for this moment your entire life, though you never knew it. It is the final and greatest act of service. With a steady hand, you take the cup. Around you, you see the other members of the retinue, the guards, the handmaidens, the cupbearer, all doing the same. It is a quiet, communal, and deeply orderly act. You raise the cup in a silent toast to the sealed stone chamber that holds your king. Then, you drink. The liquid is thick and has the familiar, malty taste of beer, but it is laced with a powerful, bitter, herbal flavor. It is not unpleasant. It is the taste of finality. You drain the cup, as does everyone else around you. The priest moves silently to collect the empty vessels. Their work as emissaries of the end now complete. The effect is not immediate. There is no sudden pain, no violent convulsion. For a few long moments, nothing happens. You stand in your designated place, surrounded by your comrades, waiting. The torches around the rim of the pit burn brightly, casting a warm, flickering glow on the silent assembly. Then, you feel it. It begins as a pleasant, spreading warmth in your belly, a gentle, creeping languor that starts in your limbs and moves slowly inward. The ache in your back from the long day, the tension in your shoulders, it all begins to dissolve. Your body feels heavy, comfortable, as if you are sinking into a soft, warm bed. Master Li's words about the afterlife, about the cold, dusty gloom of Kur, seem like a distant, irrelevant story. The fear you felt is gone, washed away by the calm, soporific tide rising within you. A signal is given, a soft gesture from the high priest who stands on the ramp above, watching as one. The members of the court begin to lie down. There is no chaos, no panic. Each person moves to their designated spot on the reed mats that cover the floor of the pit and composes themselves for their eternal sleep. The soldiers lie down in their neat ranks, their spears and helmets beside them. The handmaidens lie down in graceful rows, adjusting their fine robes one last time. You move to your own place among the other musicians. You carefully set down your lyre, propping it against a small chest so that it will stand beside you for eternity. You lie down on the reed mat, your head pillowed on your arm. You are surrounded by your friends, the men and women you have spent your life with in the service of your king. A strange sense of peace settles over you. You are not dying alone. You are simply going to your next post, along with the entire household. You look up. The sky above the rim of the great pit is a deep, star-dusted indigo. The torches create a ring of fire, a gateway to the heavens. The sight is beautiful, serene, dreamlike. The heaviness in your limbs is growing. It is becoming difficult to move your arms, your legs. Your eyelids feel as though they have small stone weights attached to them. The sounds of the world begin to fade, becoming distant and muffled. As if you are hearing them from the bottom of a deep well, you hear the faint, rhythmic chanting of the priests from above. And then another sound begins. A soft, rhythmic thud. Thud! Thud! It is the sound of shovels, the sound of earth being thrown into the pit. They are burying you. A flicker of primal fear tries to ignite in your mind, but the drug in your veins is too strong. It smothers the fear, banking it like a wet cloth on a flame. There is only a deep, profound sense of inevitability. This is how it is meant to be. Your vision begins to blur. The brilliant stars above you soften and swim together. As you drift away, a single, clear memory floats to the surface of your mind. It is not a grand memory of a royal feast or a great ceremony. It is a simple thing. You remember sitting in the palace garden one afternoon, composing a new song on your lyre. the sun warm on your face, the scent of date blossoms in the air, the feeling of creating something beautiful out of nothing. It is a perfect, simple, and now infinitely precious memory of the life you are leaving behind. Your last conscious thought is not one of terror, but of duty. You are a musician of Ur. Your king has need of your songs in his dark house. You are going to him. The rhythmic thudding of the earth grows louder. Closer. The patch of starry sky above you begins to shrink as the dirt cascades down the sides of the pit. The light of the torches is blotted out. One by one, you feel a profound, peaceful, and irreversible sleep pulling you down. Down into the silent, waiting earth. The last thing you see, before your heavy eyelids finally close for the last time, is the final star disappearing as the world above is sealed away forever. The narrative perspective lingers for a moment in the darkness. After your own consciousness is gone, the work continues with a steady, grim efficiency. The priests and laborers work through the night, their shovels rising and falling, filling the great pit with tons of earth. They are burying a king. They are burying his court. They are burying a perfect, silent, sleeping tableau of life, freezing it in time. A quiet, eternal court to serve their king in the dusty darkness of the underworld. Your story as the court musician of Ur has ended. Your consciousness, along with that of the entire royal retinue, has dissolved into a deep, dreamless, and unending sleep at the bottom of the great death pit. But the ritual, the great work of the king's burial, is not yet over. Your perspective now shifts. You are no longer a participant, but a silent, timeless observer, watching the final, solemn acts that will seal the border between the world of the living and the world of the dead. From high above the rim of the pit, the scene is one of relentless, rhythmic labor. The priests have completed their work of administering the soporific draft. The silent, sleeping court lies in perfect. Ordered rows on the reed mats below, a tableau of eternal service waiting to be preserved. Now, the laborers, under the direction of the high priest, begin the final act, the closing of the earth. Hundreds of workmen form long lines from the mounds of excavated soil to the edge of the pit, in a continuous flowing motion. They fill baskets with earth and pass them along the line to be tipped over the edge. The first soft thuds of dirt landing on the bodies, and the fine treasures below are the only sounds that break the priest's slow, monotonous chanting. It is a slow and methodical erasure. The first layers of earth cover the bodies of the outermost guards. The fine copper helmets, the still figures holding their spears, vanish beneath a rising tide of brown soil. Then the earth covers the magnificent war chariot and its slaughtered oxen. It covers the queen's handmaidens, their fine robes and golden headdresses disappearing from sight. It covers the musicians, the silent lyres, the still drums. It covers you. The work continues all through the night. 1,000 flickering torches illuminating the ant-like activity of the laborers. There is no haste, but no pause. The priests believe that the tomb must be sealed completely before the sun rises again. The new day must not look down into the open grave of the old one. This ensures a clean break, a decisive separation of the realms. By the time the first hint of dawn touches the sky in the east, the great pit is almost full. The vast, deep chamber, which had held a king's court, is now just a great, level scar of fresh earth. The tableau of the sleeping retinue is now a buried secret, hidden from the light of the sun forever. But the work is still not done. Once the pit is filled to the level of the surrounding ground, the priests perform another series of rituals on the surface. Several more oxen are sacrificed, their blood allowed to soak into the fresh earth. A final offering of life force to sanctify the ground and appease the chthonic deities of the underworld. Great jars of beer and wine are poured out, libations to ensure the spirits below will not go thirsty. Then, a new phase of construction begins. A team of skilled bricklayers moves in. They begin to build a structure over the sealed death pit. It is a large, rectangular chapel or monumental building, made of baked mud bricks. This superstructure serves several purposes. It is a memorial, a public marker for the location of the great king. It is a place for the living to come and make their offerings in the future. And it is another, final layer of security, a massive weight of brick and earth to ensure that the silent court below, and its powerful king, remain undisturbed. As you observe this process, you understand a central truth of this civilization, a truth that future archaeologists will debate. Is this all driven by love and reverence for the king, or by a profound and terrible fear? The answer you see is that the two are inseparable. The immense love and respect for the king demand that he be given a full court to serve him in eternity, and the immense fear of what his powerful, unhappy ghost could do, if not properly appeased, demands that his tomb be sealed with an absolute and terrifying finality. Love dictates the nature of the sacrifice. Fear dictates the thickness of the prison walls, inside the new brick chapel being built over the grave. The priests place magical objects. You see them embedding small clay tablets, inscribed with powerful protective incantations, into the mortar between the bricks. These are addressed to any potential desecrators, human or demonic. They are spiritual warning signs, promising blindness, disease, and madness to any who would dare to disturb this place. They are also, you realize, meant to work from the inside out a final set of magical bars on the king's own cell after several more days of work. The entire burial complex is complete. The death pit is gone, buried and sealed. Above it stands a new, imposing brick structure. The ground is swept clean. The laborers and priests depart. A quiet stillness settles over the royal cemetery once more. The site now looks like just another monument among the other tombs. There is no outward sign of the spectacular, horrifying tableau of the 74 sleeping courtiers that lies deep in the earth beneath. The world of the living has been decisively, permanently, and ritually separated from the world of the dead. The great wound in the earth has been closed. The king and his eternal court are now sealed in their silent, dark, and unchanging home. They have everything they need for their miserable eternity in Kurr. The great fear now is that they might one day decide they want something else to return. The great death pit of is filled. The earth is closed. The last brick of the funerary chapel that marks the site is laid, and the priests perform their final rites of sealing and protection. To the eyes of the living, the world has been made whole again. The great, violent wound in the earth has been healed, and a new, silent monument now stands under the Mesopotamian sun. But your story, the story of the court musician, has not truly ended. It has simply moved to a new and permanent location. Your perspective now sinks down, through the layers of fresh earth, through the hard-packed clay seal, and back into the absolute, silent darkness of the tomb. Down here, time has no meaning. There is no day, no night. There is only the unchanging, perfect, and eternal court. The air is still, cool and heavy. The faint, lingering scent of cedar oil, incense, and dried flowers has been sealed in with you, in the absolute blackness. The gold and lapis lazuli of your headdresses and necklaces hold a secret. Unseen fire. The skeletons lie in their perfect, ordered rows, just as they fell asleep. The royal guards still stand at their posts by the chamber door, their bones now clad in the remnants of their woolen cloaks. Their copper spears still held in bony hands. The handmaidens rest in their neat lines, their delicate golden headdresses of beech leaves now resting on bare, white skulls. The charioteer is with his chariot, the bones of his oxen lying before him, and you are there. Among the other musicians, a skeleton in a decaying robe, lying on your side, your own skull turned towards the magnificent bull-headed lyre that rests beside you. You are all still on duty, a silent court, forever attending a silent king. This is your new home. But your spirit, your Etemu, is not here. It is now a resident of that other place. The one the priests spoke of with such dread. You are now a citizen of Kur, the land of no return. You are a shade in a gloomy subterranean world, a place of dust and thirst, where you continue your service. You play your spectral lyre for your king, not for his entertainment, but to provide a small, sad echo of the life you both have lost, a meager comfort in the eternal twilight. Above you, in the world of light and air, life in the great city of Ur goes on. The king's son is now the king. The city thrives, and the memory of the great death, the spectacular funeral, becomes a foundational legend for the new king's reign, a testament to his piety and his power. But the relationship between the living and the dead has not ended. It has entered its most crucial and enduring phase. The survival and prosperity of the new king and his entire dynasty now depend on the proper care and appeasement of the immensely powerful spirits they have just laid to rest. This care takes the form of the kispu, the feeding of the dead, once a month, on the day of the new moon. A solemn procession makes its way from the palace to the royal cemetery. It is led by the new king himself. They do not enter the tomb. They go to the funerary chapel that was built above it. There, on a special altar, they lay out a great feast. They call out the name of your dead king, praising his memory and his great deeds. And then, they offer him a drink. A priest pours a libation of fine beer, not onto the ground, but into the top of a clay pipe that was built into the structure. A pipe that leads deep down into the earth, down to the sealed burial chamber below. They are giving a drink to the thirsty dead. They also call out the names of the honored dead who accompanied him, the members of his eternal court. They call out the name of the captain of his guard. They call out the name of his chief handmaiden. And they call out your name, the court musician. And with each name, another libation is poured. This is your strange immortality. You have become an ancestor. Your name is now part of the sacred list, a spirit who must be honored and appeased, as long as the dynasty of your king survives, as long as they remember their duty. You will be remembered. Your thirsty spirit in the land of dust will receive its small comfort. A ghostly taste of the beer you once enjoyed in the Great Hall. The living perform this duty out of a complex mixture of love, piety, and fear. They love their departed king. They honor their sacred duty to their ancestors. But they also live in mortal fear of what would happen if they were to neglect this duty. A forgotten ancestor is a hungry ancestor. A hungry ancestor is an angry ghost, and the ghost of a great king, and his entire spectral court, would be a force of destruction capable of bringing the entire city to ruin. The great wealth buried in the tomb is a subject of debate for future historians. Did such a massive expenditure of resources weaken the kingdom? Or did it strengthen the dynasty by cementing its religious and political authority, looking down from your timeless perspective? You see that it did both. It was a crippling expense. A treasure that could have funded armies or fed the city for a year, now lost to the earth forever. But the authority it purchased for the new king, the legitimacy demonstrated by such a profound act of filial piety, is a source of immense power that will secure his reign for decades to come. And so the two courts exist in parallel. The court of the living king above, bustling with life, intrigue, and commerce, and the silent court of the dead king below, frozen in a perfect, eternal tableau. The only thing connecting them is a thin clay pipe, a channel for libations and prayers, and the fragile, enduring power of memory. The living serve the dead to ensure their own prosperity, and you, the silent musician, along with your king and all your comrades, continue your eternal service in the darkness, forever dependent on the love and fear of the children you left behind. The silence in the great tomb beneath the earth is absolute. The years begin to pass. then the decades, then the centuries, above you. In the world of light, the city of Ur continues its great cycles of life. War and worship. The new king, the son of your buried master, rules for a long and prosperous reign. His authority cemented by the magnificent funeral he provided for his father. Each month, at the dark of the moon, he leads his family to the funerary chapel built over your tomb. He calls out the name of his father, and he calls out your name, and the names of all the 73 others who joined the eternal court, and he pours the libations of cool water and fresh beer into the clay pipe that leads down into the darkness. It is a lifeline, a thin thread of memory and nourishment connecting your two worlds. But no dynasty lasts forever. New powers rise in the land of Mesopotamia. The city of Babylon grows in might. The old Sumerian ways begin to fade, replaced by new gods and new customs. The descendants of your king become less powerful. The processions to the tomb become less grand. The offerings become less frequent. You, the timeless observer, witness the slow, inevitable decay of memory. One generation performs the kispu out of fervent, fearful duty. A few generations later, they do it out of habit, the meaning already beginning to fade. Generations after that, the ritual is forgotten altogether. A day comes when no one arrives at the funerary chapel. The libation pipe remains dry. The names of the king and of his loyal musician are no longer spoken. The thread has been broken. Now, the silence in your tomb is truly complete. Your court is now truly alone, forgotten by the world of the living, left to the eternal. Dusty thirst of Kur, millennia pass in a silent, unchanging instant above you. Empires rise and fall. The Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks under Alexander, the Romans, the Parthians. The great ziggurat of Ur crumbles. The Euphrates River shifts its course, and the desert sands drift in, covering the ruins of the once mighty city. The very language of Sumer is lost, the wedge-shaped cuneiform on the clay tablets becoming an unreadable mystery. Your tomb, and the silent, golden court within it, sleeps on, its story utterly erased from human memory. Then, after an age of silence so profound, it is almost a form of eternity. A new sound penetrates the darkness. It is not the sound of Sumerian chants or the soft padding of a priest's feet. It is a sharp, rhythmic, grating sound. It is the scrape of a metal shovel against hard-packed earth. New men have come. They are from a land your king never knew. A nation called England. They are led by a man named Wooly, a new kind of high priest they call an archaeologist. They are not seeking to appease your spirit. They are seeking to understand your world. They dig with a scientific precision, but with a treasure hunter's zeal. They unearth the ruins of your city, the great ziggurat, the palace walls, and then they find your cemetery. They find the great death pit, with painstaking care. They clear away the earth that has covered you for 4,500 years. The brilliant, harsh sunlight of the 20th century floods the pit for the first time since the day you were buried. The archaeologists are stunned by what they find. They see the perfect, ordered rows of skeletons. They see the guards still at their posts, the handmaidens with their crushed but still beautiful golden headdresses. They see the remains of the great war chariot, and they see you, a skeleton lying beside the magnificent, crushed remains of your golden bull-headed lyre. They see the small clay cup still resting near your hand. They do not understand. They find no signs of violence, no marks of a struggle. They see only a court that seems to have calmly, willingly, laid down to die with their king. The scene is a profound and terrifying mystery to them. It is a form of devotion, a level of loyalty, that their world can no longer comprehend. They have unearthed you. They have broken the eternal silence, but in doing so, they have given you a new and different kind of afterlife. Your bones, and those of your comrades, are carefully lifted from the earth, numbered, and sent to a museum in a distant city called London. Your magnificent lyre is painstakingly restored. It is put on display behind a sheet of polished glass, a marvel from a lost world for new generations to gaze upon. Your story is pieced together from the evidence of your tomb. The purpose of your death is debated by scholars who have learned to read the ancient cuneiform again. They call your king's burial a retainer sacrifice, and they marvel at its wealth and its strange. Orderly horror, you, the musician of Ur, have achieved a new form of immortality. Your name is unknown, but your story is now told in books. Your music is silent, but your beautiful lyre is seen by thousands. You have been brought back into the light. The bleak eternity of Kur has been exchanged for a place in the memory of a world you could never have imagined. The final judgment on your life was passed not by a gloomy underworld god, but by the curious, wondering eyes of history, and so the tale of the great death rite of Ur comes to its end. The silent court in the darkness has been brought into the light, its story now a part of our own. The immense, terrifying certainty of their faith, a faith that demanded such a profound and final act of service, is now a thing for us to ponder from the safe distance of millennia. The horror of the event is softened by time, transformed into a source of wonder and a quiet meditation on the many strange and different ways humans have sought to understand the great mystery of death. Let the dust of that ancient plain settle now. The ghosts of Sumer are at peace, their story told. The mournful notes of the lyre have faded, leaving only the gentle quiet of your own room. The great pit has been filled, and the world is safe and still. There is nothing to fear. There is only the calm, deep silence of the night, a silence that invites not a terrifying eternal sleep, but a simple, peaceful, and well-deserved rest.